Next on the 5 o'clock report.
No locations, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
You have a time crunch and what's the most important thing versus we just need to get up and go.
Growing consensus in acknowledging biological reality.
Have access to lots of information. It just means you sort of have to sift it.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Defense of the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had a few fiery words for the press from Hawaii this afternoon. He was correcting the story that he leaked war plans on a chat thread.
Out came something that doesn't look like war plans. They even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans? I see them every single day.
The Atlantic journalist included in that thread released transcripts today. He says Hegseth isn't telling the truth. CBS's Ed O'Keefe.
It said that at 12:15 Eastern Time, F-18s would launch the first strike package towards Yemen. At 1:45, a trigger-based F-18 first strike window would start.
Charlie D'Agata is at the Pentagon.
This is information that should never leave the building, and certainly not leave the building on unsecured devices or unsecured apps like this.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the White House has launched an investigation.
The National Security Council, the White House counsel's office, and also, yes, Elon Musk's team. Elon Musk has offered to put his technical experts on this to figure out how this number was inadvertently added to the chat, to take responsibility and ensure this can never happen again.
One person included in that 18-person chat with Hegseth was CIA Director John Ratcliffe. He went before Congress again today and told them, keep your eye on the ball.
My responsibility as CIA director is to kill terrorists. And that's exactly what I did. That's what we should be focused on.
The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld a Biden-era regulation on hard-to-trace ghost guns. CBS's Jan Crawford.
If it looks like a gun, it fires like a gun, it acts like a gun, they're going to treat it like a gun, and you've got to get those serial numbers on it to sell it and background checks as well.
The court will also require age verification to buy the kits to build the weapons. Public broadcasting on trial today. Federal funding of NPR and PBS on the docket before Congress. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Far too long, federal taxpayers have been forced to fund biased news. This needs to come to an end, and it needs to come to an end now.
Massachusetts Democratic Congressman Stephen Lynch.
I'm sad to see that this once proud committee, the principal investigative committee in the House of Representatives, has now stooped to the lowest levels of partisanship and political theater to hold a hearing to go after the likes of Elmo and Cookie Monster.
NPR's head and PBS's president both claim they subscribe to the highest journalistic standards and are not biased. There are 87 employees in the NPR DC bureau that are registered Democrats and 0 Republicans. Hundreds of families in the Southeast have been forced out of their homes in the wildfires. Megan Miller and her family of 10 had to get up and go in Greenville, South Carolina.
It's scary because it's one thing knowing that you're about to lose something and you have a time crunch and what's the most important thing versus we just need to get up and go.
Thousands of acres are burning. That smoke can be seen from downtown Greenville. There are air quality alerts and mandatory evacuations underway. Anyone want to buy a country? Vice President J.D. Vance will visit Greenland on Friday to discuss their future, and they're not too happy about it.
Even before Vance announced he was joining the trip, Denmark's prime minister was calling it unacceptable pressure, which she's determined to resist. On Greenland itself, this journalist says the vast majority would tell Vance,
"We are not for sale."
Vance put out a video today ahead of that trip.
Other countries have threatened Greenland, have threatened to use its territories and its waterways to threaten the United States, to threaten Canada, and of course to threaten the people of Greenland. So we're going to check out how things are going there. We want to reinvigorate the security of the people of Greenland because we think it's important to protecting the security of the entire world.
There was an unusual protest in Gaza today. Palestinians were chanting anti-Hamas slogans. was a very rare show of public anger. Hamas has long suppressed dissent. And it was a year ago today, Baltimore's Key Bridge collapsed after it was hit by a ship. Maryland Governor Wes Moore.
We remember the cold morning in March that changed our state forever. And we remember the tears that we shed and the uncertainty that we all felt.
The city of Baltimore honoring the 6 construction workers killed. Mayor Brandon Scott.
Today was about those people, those families on that water being able to honor their loved ones.
Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, how to survive information overload in the news. The Save Women's Sports Act makes it to the Pennsylvania Senate, and how you can make a difference on human trafficking. A sit down with Northern Tier Representative Clint Owlett next after weather.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley with our Family Life forecast. A few flurries or snow showers may persist into the early evening hours, but the trend overnight tonight will be for clearing skies. Temperatures will be cold for the time of year, falling into the 20s overnight. Tomorrow, though, a good deal of sunshine likely for much of the region for much of the day. There will be a few clouds showing up in the afternoon, a bit of a breeze in the afternoon, too. Temperatures warmer tomorrow, well up in the 40s. A couple of spots may exceed 50 degrees. Then more clouds working their way into the region on Friday from west to east, and some rain showing up in the afternoon, especially in western areas. It may be evening in eastern Pennsylvania before the rain begins to fall. Temperatures on Friday, for the most part, high 40s and low 50s across the region.
Thank you, Ken. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. The Save Women's Sports Act made it to the floor of the Pennsylvania Senate today for a vote. We're awaiting word on what happened. The Pennsylvania Family Council had this to say about it.
There is a growing consensus in acknowledging biological reality. Our country is returning to common sense as people are demanding safety, fairness, and respect for female athletes.
Our own Mark Webster takes us to Harrisburg.
Yeah, Senate Republicans on the Education Committee advanced the Save Women's Sports Act to a full Senate vote. The measure doesn't use the word gender, but defines sex as either male or female at birth, and bars so-called transgender boys born female from participating in girls' sports from grade school through college. Every committee Democrat opposed the bill, and Governor Josh Shapiro is already on record saying he'll veto it if and when it makes it to his desk. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Columbia University professors are suing President Trump over the loss in federal funding because of their pro-Palestinian campus protests. They had this to say today.
What we're talking about here is a direct attack on our research and on democracy. And what we're here to say today is that we're not going to take it.
Kelly Urban is a legal analyst.
Anybody who turned on their TV or looked at their X feed or the like watched Columbia University and other universities allow anti-Semitic, anti-American protesters to run roughshod over Jewish students, which is blatant discrimination.
Northern Tier Representative Clint Owlett is hosting a couple of events in early April on human trafficking. Our own Bob Price spoke with him earlier today about why there's such an urgent need for action. Let's listen in.
Human trafficking is the fastest growing crime in America, only second to the drug trade. And we know that they're targeting our kids specifically through a lot of digital platforms. And there are people that are engaging with our kids online that have alternative motives, and we have to do our best to protect them. And part of that is educating yourself. And we've got a great panel of speakers that are going to be helping us understand exactly the dangers that are out there and how we can protect our kids.
Yeah. You argue parents, grandparents, caregivers, just people in the community all should make a point of attending one of these sessions Wednesday, April 2nd at the Towanda Junior Senior High School, and then Thursday, April 3rd at the Wellsboro Fire Department. What would you say to the person say, I'm not personally impacted this, what do I care? Clint, what would you say to those people?
You know, if you have any engagement with kids, and even if you don't, having a knowledge of what's actually going on out there within our community is key. And it's going to take all of us. I know a lot of people say, hey, we need to figure out some legislative ideas, and we do need to work at that. But half the battle is just educating ourselves and what to look for, and that's what we're trying to do. It is heavy. It's a heavy discussion. I've had some of the heaviest conversations I've ever had in this job, but it's one that we have to do.
I love the quote from Tina Pickett, your colleague in the Pennsylvania House. She says, this is a crime that's happening right here, right now, right under our noses.
Oh, it's a big deal. Our Attorney General, Dave Sunday, recently elected. He's actually coming to the one in Wellsboro. And this is one of his main priorities that he has. And it used to be, the white van on the corner. And right now we know that it's happening very, very aggressively with our kids and in digital platforms on their phone.
That's Northern Tier Representative Clint Owlett. The two seminars on human trafficking are Wednesday, April 2nd from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the Towanda High School. And the second one happens Thursday, April 3rd at the Wellsboro Fire Department. And Central New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney supports efforts by the Trump administration to restore integrity in federal elections.
Far-left Democratic judges in the state of New York on our Court of Appeals actually approved and voted for citizenship as a requirement of voting in the state of New York, which, by the way, is required by our state constitution. So that's a huge win in a very blue state like New York, where the Democrats in New York City tried to make non-citizen voting a thing that would be happening in New York City.
President Trump signed an executive order yesterday requiring proof of citizenship when registering to vote in national elections. Democrats argue it's the state's prerogative to make election law, not the federal government's. Next at 5, information overload. An award-winning journalist is offering advice on how to navigate the 24-hour-a-day, 7 days a week news cycle.
And there's so much going on in the world right now. It's great to have access to lots of information. It just means that you sort of have to sift it.
Bob Smetana with Religion News Service.
I think the first thing you can do is read the whole story or watch the whole video. Don't just rely on the headline or a tweet about it. Read the whole thing.
He says the proliferation of cable news and social media requires consumers to ask fundamental questions about what passes as news these days.
I think you should ask, how do they know that? So if someone gives a statistic, someone tells a story, ask how they know it. Ask what their source material for that is.
Smetana adds a good way to evaluate the stories we hear is to look for balance in reporting.
I think you should also look and make sure there are multiple sources in the story. So it's not just from one person. And if the story is about someone else, did they talk to that person? Does the other person have a chance to tell their side?
Unfortunately, says Smetana, objectivity is a lost art in journalism today.
I want to believe that the people we don't like are bad, or that our point of view of how things should work is right.
You can hear more of this entire interview with award-winning journalist Bob Smetana online anytime. Just look for Inside Out at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org under the podcast tab. Time next for tonight's market report brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing with stocks lower. At the final bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 132 points to 42,454. The S&P 500 dropped by 64 points to 5712, and the Nasdaq fell by 372 points to 17,899. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Saving money can be difficult, but it's a key biblical principle. Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute. While some face significant financial hardships that make saving nearly impossible, many people can set aside something. The challenge is often building the habit of intentional saving, not just income. The only way you can begin to save is by learning to live on less than you make. And the only way to do that is by living on a budget. The FaithFi app can help you prepare one. Get it wherever you download apps. Just look for Faith and Finance. Then resolve to save something every payday, even if it's just a little to start. Finally, pray for self-control. Proverbs 21 says, "Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it." We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, 2 kids and a pilot and the village that saved them in Alaska. That story coming up after weather.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley with our Family Life forecast. A few flurries or snow showers may persist into the early evening hours, but the trend overnight tonight will be for clearing skies. Temperatures will be cold for the time of year, falling into the 20s overnight. Tomorrow, though, a good deal of sunshine likely for much of the region for much of the day. There will be a few clouds showing up in the afternoon, a bit of a breeze in the afternoon, too. Temperatures warmer tomorrow, well up in the 40s. A couple of spots may exceed 50 degrees. Then more clouds working their way into the region on Friday from west to east, and some rain showing up in the afternoon, especially in western areas. It may be evening lightning in eastern Pennsylvania before the rain begins to fall. Temperatures on Friday, for the most part, high 40s and low 50s across the region.
Thank you, Ken. Finally, at 5, a plane crash into a frozen Alaskan lake doesn't usually end well, but a pilot and 2 children beat those grim odds this weekend, thanks in large part to a team of Good Samaritans. When the plane with the pilot and his 2 young children became overdue Sunday night, a Facebook post quickly generated a determined team of volunteers to find them. Pilot Dale Eichert tells KTUU in Anchorage.
I didn't expect that we would find him, but I did expect that we would find him alive for sure. It was pretty cloudy. There's a lot of places to go down up there. I've done a little bit of search and rescue before, and it doesn't always turn out this well.
Search pilots spotted the downed plane partially submerged atop a frozen lake near Homer, Alaska. The victims walking near the crash site. All 3 of them escaped with non-life-threatening injuries. A miracle because of a village of bystanders who went out in the cold. And that's the world that we live in for Wednesday, the 26th of March. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.